Iran-U.S. MOU, a desperate gambit for regional relevance.
After 2 months of off and on diplomatic talks, President Trump is hailing the framework of a potential permanent peace deal with Iran. The Memorandum of Understanding will be signed between both countries this Friday in Switzerland. The text of the memorandum has not been released, but a senior administration official who briefed reporters on Monday said the MOU calls for immediately reopening the Strait of Hormuz and the end of the U.S. naval blockade. The president, who's attending the G7 summit in Evian, France, said the U.S. will not need much help in clearing any mines that could still pose a hazard to any cargo ships or oil tankers.
I don't think we're going to need much help, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have a ship or two up here from a few countries. It'd be a great country to do it, because you never know what happens. But I think it's going to be open, and I think it's going to be free sailing.
President Trump, with French President Emmanuel Macron by his side, also touted what he called a commitment from Iran to drop its efforts to develop a nuclear weapon.
The main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They fully agreed to that with strong policing powers, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, which is what it was all about, because they probably would have used it if they had it.
A senior administration official said Monday that the U.S. is prepared to lift sanctions and release Iranian frozen funds if Iran meets certain milestones in the agreement. About $24 billion in Iranian funds are frozen abroad. At the White House, I'm John Decker.
The financial tell. Welcome. If you follow the mainstream headlines, you've likely seen the recent announcement regarding a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. On the surface, it is being framed by Washington as a triumph of quiet diplomacy, a de-escalation designed to stabilize a volatile region. But if we look past the press release and focus on the receipts, a very different story emerges. In geopolitics, money is the ultimate tell. When you look at the specific dollar amounts involved in sanction reliefs and unfreezing of assets, you realize this isn't a standard diplomatic exchange. This is a premium. As an outsider looking in, it becomes clear that the United States no longer possesses the regional leverage to dictate terms. In decades past, Washington set the table. Today, it is paying for a seat at it. We are witnessing the U.S. essentially subsidizing its own presence in the Middle East. Many of you have pointed out in the comments that these negotiations often feel like stalling tactics. You're right, but the question we must ask is, who is stalling? Who? By releasing billions in exchange for temporary behavioral understandings, the U.S. is buying a monetary calm for its domestic political audience. It is a high-price insurance policy against a conflict it cannot afford to manage right now. It cannot afford to manage right now. But as any financier will tell you, when you pay a premium this high, it's a sign that your collateral is failing.
President Trump is in Europe for the G7 summit, where everyone's talking about that agreement with Iran. The Trump administration is promising to release the full text of the deal later this week. Taureen Small has more from the White House.
Speaking from the G7 summit in France, President Trump touted an electronically signed agreement to end the war with Iran.
The main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They fully agreed to that.
An official signing ceremony is set for Friday, expected to be in Geneva, Switzerland. Vice President J.D. Vance will be on hand.
We plan to release the full text this week. We want the American people to see it.
For now, hundreds of ships remain at a standstill in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. military says its blockade of Iranian ports remain in effect until that Friday signing, when President Trump says the key waterway will be completely opened.
It's a very important step towards peace, but as well for the global economy.
France's president congratulated Trump and offered to dispatch fighter aircraft as soon as Tuesday to conduct observation flights over the strait.
Everybody's breathing a sigh of relief in Europe and around the world that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be reopened, because the nightmare scenario was going to be that this dragged right through the summer.
A longer-term closure of the strait could have continued to drive up oil prices at a peak time for consumption. President Trump says gas prices here at home are already coming down. The official signing will set off 60 days of talks to still negotiate some of the stickiest issues, including how to destroy Iran's nuclear stockpile.
Whether we play an observer role or whether we play a more active role, these are the sorts of things that we'll figure out in technical talks.
Israel's role is also in question. The U.S. says it expects all parties to cooperate, but Israel officials say they're not bound to the agreement to end fighting with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Torian Small, CBS News, the White House.
The nuclear window. If the United States is using this MOU to buy time, we have to ask, what is Iran doing with that time? This brings us to what I call the one-up theory of technological advancement. While Washington secures a temporary diplomatic win to showcase on the evening news, Tehran is securing a technological window. The financial relief mentioned in Act 1 isn't just going toward the Iranian domestic economy. It is the fuel for the final push of their strategic goals. Think of this MOU as a tactical pause. For Iran, this isn't about ending their nuclear program, it's about optimizing it. During this period of reduced oversight and ease sanctions, Iran is able to advance its research and development without the immediate threat of snapback sanctions or military intervention. They are refining centrifuge efficiencies, hardening their infrastructure, and diversifying their delivery system. As we discussed in our previous analysis of Iran's nuclear doctrine, the countdown hasn't stopped. It has simply gone silent. By the time this MOU expires or is inevitably breached, the technological baseline of Iran's program will have shifted. They are using American-funded time to ensure that when next confrontation occurs, they are starting from a position of much greater strength. The U.S. is paying for a pause, while Iran is investing in the future.
Thank you. So, Emmanuel has been a special friend of mine. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've worked on many deals together. I'm very happy to say very signed. The deal's all signed. And the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found. But it's essentially, ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened. We got along very well with Iran. It's a different set of leaders. As you know, the first set is gone, the second set is gone, and we found the third set to be very smart, strong, very smart, but we ended up making a deal. I felt badly that we had to go back on the attack for 2 nights, and I thought a third, but we made it before that happened. But I think a lot of great things are going to happen in the Middle East right now, and very importantly, the oil is plummeting down, and the stock market is shooting up like a rocket today, like record kind of numbers. And the oil has taken its biggest plunge, and we're into the low numbers, not quite back yet, Kevin, to the extent, but we're getting close to the numbers we were before it all started. And the main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They fully agreed to that with strong policing powers, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, which is what it was all about, because they probably would have used it if they had it.
The Israeli breakpoint. Now we must introduce the wild card that Washington's outsider perspective often fails to account for. Israel is where the good cop, bad cop narrative falls apart. While the U.S. acts as an outsider signing the checks from thousands of miles away, Israel is the insider that has to live with the physical consequences of a nuclear-capable neighbor. This MOU creates what I call the Israeli breakpoint. There is a fundamental misalignment of interests here. Washington wants a quiet news cycle and a stable oil price. Jerusalem sees an existential threat growing behind a veil of American-funded diplomacy. Our analysis of regional military readiness suggests that the more the U.S. concedes financially, the more likely Israel is to exercise its military veto. Israel knows that once the nuclear window closes, once Iran achieves a certain level of technological redundancy, a military solution becomes nearly impossible. We are approaching a point where Israel may feel forced to act independently of Washington's wishes. This isn't just rhetoric, it's a tactical necessity. If the U.S. continues to pursue a policy of outsider diplomacy that ignores the insider's security reality, the very deal intended to prevent war may be the catalyst that ignites it. The MOU isn't a bridge to peace, it's a wedge between two long-term allies. The Eastern pivot. When we step back and look at the global stage, the picture becomes even clearer. The United States isn't managing a region, it is managing a retreat. This MOU is a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a theater that is rapidly moving on. While Washington focuses on these short-term financial gambits, the Eastern pivot is accelerating. Iran is now waiting for American permission to grow. They are looking towards the BRICS nations deepening ties with Russia and solidifying a strategic partnership with China. These powers aren't asking Iran to pause. They are offering them a seat in a new global architecture that doesn't require a green light from the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. is playing a 20th century game of containment in the 21st century world of connectivity. By the time the U.S. realizes that money can no longer buy regional leverage, the pivot to the east will be complete. So I leave you with this question. Is the United States truly buying peace with this MOU? Or is it simply financing the very technology and the very timeline that will eventually push it out of the Middle East for good? The outsider is writing checks, but the insiders are rewriting the map. Thank you for watching. I look forward to reading your thoughts on this financial tale. In the comments below, make sure to review our previous deep dives on the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's missile capabilities to see how these tactical pieces fit into the larger strategic puzzle. I'm Ro for The Real Shift, and once again, all that I ask from you is to roll with me. Please like, subscribe, and share this video so the algorithm can push this out to more people. We appreciate your time. Thank you much, and you have a wonderful day.